Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning Board for the City of Birmingham. Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Could we please call the roll?
Tom Klein.
Present.
Alvin Boyle.
Here.
Stuart Jeffries. Bert Kozak.
Here.
Daniel Scher.
Present.
Janelle Wiggles. Brian Williams.
Present.
Duncan Curry.
Here.
Missy Limit. Carter Anderson. Olivia Betanzos.
All right, we are quorum with 6 tonight, and for the record, Mr. Curry is a voting member tonight. Let's move forward with review and approval of the minutes for the meeting on August 13th of 2025. Any comments? I see none. I'd entertain a motion.
Can I, move the approval of the minutes of August 13th, 2025 as presented?
Support.
Motion, Mr. Scher, support, Mr. Williams. Any conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. August 27th, 2025, the minutes from that meeting. Any comments, corrections?
Move the approval of the minutes of August 27, 2025 as presented.
Support.
Motion, Mr. Scher, support, Mr. Williams. We're on a roll. Any conversation at the board level? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Welcome to everybody watching at home or here tonight. We have a bit of a hybrid meeting tonight, but the primary role will be for a site plan and design review. There will be an opportunity for the public to comment at the appropriate time. I will open up public comments. If you're here, come to either the microphones. If you are at home, you can use the raise your hand function if you are watching on Zoom. And if you are watching this on television, you're just yelling at your TV at that point. Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Dupuy?
There have not been any changes, sir.
Fantastic. So let's fly it and move forward. Item J1, site plan and design review, 36977 Woodward Avenue. This is a request for a preliminary site plan review for a new 3-story commercial building on a property I'd never thought I'd see actually developed.
I saw it developed
I bet you did, sir.
63 years ago.
1900 and clickety what?
Yeah.
All right.
Gas.
Mr.
All
Dupuy.
right. Well, thanks very much for the introduction there. I was going to say myself, I think I speak for everyone when I say this is a site for sore eyes. I think that there were some buildings on there in the 90s. I guess technically I've probably seen that developed, although not sure if I knew what it was back then. But even so, it's been vacant for a long time, save what's currently there, a 6-foot chain link fence and probably a few illegally parked cars over the years, probably a few people from time to time too. But what we've got here, we're at the preliminary site plan review stage for this building. It's required for new buildings. The preliminary site plan review phase, as we quote here, is intended to be sort of a high-level tentative approval for them to continue forward to develop their plans and ultimately construction drawings. I will admit, as usual around here it seems, they've certainly given us close to final site plan level drawings. I only mention that, and I only mention this distinction, because I want to keep us a little centered tonight. We are at preliminary site plan review. I will be talking a little bit about some final site plan and design review level things, because they brought them to us. Why not? But I just don't want to get lost in the weeds of design tonight, although I would certainly be open to conversation, because I think every last little bit of feedback will help the development team as they move forward. So I won't limit you necessarily unless we get too far into the weeds. The last thing, before I move on to that, you might notice here too that there's no community impact study. I wanted to make sure to explain that a little bit. There's 3 triggers for CIS reviews. One is a new building over 20,000 square feet, where we are not even halfway there on this one. There's additions to buildings that are already somewhere around 18,000 square feet, which does not apply. There's also an additional one where, at the planning board's discretion, you can require a community impact study should you feel as though a litany of things are affected, things like just general planning, zoning issues, utilities, noise, air quality, all those impact-related things. I guess I'm suggesting to you that I don't think those types of things apply, but for the record, I think we should at least have a little bit of a conversation about it. So those are the three triggers. That's why you don't see a community impact study in front of you tonight. The last thing we mentioned in this introductory portion is that if you just drive by the site or if you look on Google Maps, it's a little bit of a quirky site in that the northern part, I'd say the northern third, kind of appears to be a different site. It doesn't currently have a fence around it like the rest of the site. I'm talking about this portion here. As we're told, it's now currently all one site, thanks to a lot, I think, heavy work by the applicant team. I'd like to reserve that conversation for them because they did all that background work. It's related to easements and things, utility easements and things, which is why this portion of the site appears to be so much different. So if you'd like to know more, I'm sure they're happy to tell. They did do a lot of work in that regard. So back to the site itself. Get back to the plans. We usually start with a little bit of bulk area setback type things. And in this famous transitional zone, there's a lot of different regulations that go into it. A lot of unique regulations in these transition zones. As you know, transition zones were adopted to kind of act as a good in-between between heavy commercial and residential areas. So this being TZ3, it's the most intense transitional zone, which is frankly why even this big commercial building's even allowed. So they got things, their max height is 4 stories here. They're only going 3 technically, and the third story is kind of partial anyways, with a lot of rooftop terrace space. Even so, there is, I guess, a current issue with height in that the peak of that glass greenhouse is at 45 feet, where the max height is 42. So we need to adjust the height a little bit. I think it's doable. We just got to take that height down by a few feet. There's also a strange, or I shouldn't say strange, a unique requirement in TZ3 that building frontages equal at least 75% of the frontage line on the front facade. So we did that calculation, which I have to admit, there's a small error that was brought to my attention in the math here. But the building facade on the front, which is the Woodward side, is about 96 feet. The overall frontage is about 157 feet. That represents about 62%. So they're short about 22 feet on the 75% rule. I'm sure they'll have some comments about that. I know that they've got some challenges here on this site with making sure to have it parked and also get what they need. But as of right now, they don't currently meet that requirement. I think it's probably doable, but we'll have to have that conversation. There's also just a note that we'd like on the plan about the rear setback. We think it's plenty fine. We think it's actually about 40 feet. We'd just like them to mark it. So hopefully in the future, towards final, we'll have those details on the plans. I'm sure we will. There's also an odd quirk in the TZ3 that says buildings over 100 feet in length require at least one entry facing the street. So it kind of dovetails here. So currently, they don't have an entrance facing a public street because the building's only 96 feet. What I'm telling you is that it needs to be a little bit longer to meet the 75% requirement, which will then ultimately trigger the front entry requirement. So it's it kind of dovetails in with each other. So those are the real, everything else, by the way, looks good. The front setbacks, the side setbacks, the rest of the bulk area, just a little bit of detail work to be had. Moving on to screening and landscaping. First, dumpsters. There's very clearly a dumpster here that's very clearly going to be screened. We just like a little more detail at final site plan review to make sure it meets the screening requirements. There's also very obviously a parking lot here that needs to be screened. They've got a 3-foot screen wall here at the southeast side, screening these spaces. And they've got a 3-foot screen wall here on the north side, screening from the Quarton right-of-way. To get ahead of it, maybe you have some questions, maybe you won't, but we had discussions, the applicant team and I, about screening this portion here, adjacent to these eight or so spaces. And I advised them that I don't think that screening would be required there. The adjacency, of course, is a public alley, but on the other side, it's actually also TZ3 zoning. Typically, and parking area, by the way, here.
Yeah.
Typically, between commercial parking areas, we don't require any zoning. Also,
Screening.
I'm sorry, yes, screening. So those are the reasons why I suggested to them, not only that, but it kind of just wouldn't do any good there. There's nothing really to screen. So they might have some bumper blocks or something, but that's up to them in the future. But that's why there's no screen wall there. For mechanical equipment, this is a minor mistake we made in the report. I think we were looking at a different version of the site plan where we said we didn't see any screening for this electrical transformer here. It's clear on the landscaping plan that they're proposing some landscaping screening. Generally, we're supportive of that as a planning department, landscaping screening that is. The zoning ordinance does, though, require more of a hardscape screening enclosure, but does offer the planning board flexibility in materials and design to kind of fit the site. So I think at final site plan, we'll discuss that, but it might be helpful for their sake, for their planning sake, to get an idea of what you might like to see screening that transformer. Everything on the rooftop, though, is tucked behind a screen wall that appears to be the proper height. It looks like a metal or something like that. We'll get all those details at final site plan review. Moving on to landscaping, there's, of course, as you can see, some landscaping here, plentiful landscaping. There are no, generally speaking, required landscaping elements on the site. It's a commercial site. We typically don't with the commercial sites. The only thing that we would consider in that regard are invasive species. None of these species appear to be on the invasive species list, so we'll check that box. However, their parking lot is over 7,500 square feet. When you have a parking lot over 7,500 square feet, you're required to install some landscaping. The intent of that requirement is to sort of, as the ordinance states, break up the expanse of paving. So what they are proposing here are these landscaping facilities on the edges. So it's not traditionally what we see. In other words, if I can be simple about it, we would see like a landscaped island here or here to break up that expanse. But it's because it just crossed the threshold of 7,500, it's a little over 7,600. They're electing, it seems, to go the route of providing landscaping at the fringes, as I say, as a compromise. That's something I'd like to discuss with you all because I think at this preliminary site plan stage, it's kind of an important factor. I'll get to it in a little while, but they are exactly at the parking they need. So I think any alterations to that, or if we were to play a little bit of hardball with them and ask them to put some interior landscaping, I think we'd be creating another problem. So I'd like to know, in your mind, if this meets the intent of that parking lot landscaping. Does it break up the expanse enough for you? Things like that. Also, in terms of landscaping, we do go over street trees here. They're proposing 3 and 3, that is 3 on Corton and 3 on Woodward. Based on the frontages, though, the 3 on Corton meet the requirement, but we would look for 4 on Woodward, actually. Let's see here. They're required to be spaced 40 feet apart. It looks like they are. It's worth noting that we don't see a lot of trees on Woodward in Birmingham, but there are not a lot of sites like this in Birmingham where their Woodward frontage is all green space. We see a lot of sites where their frontages are slip lanes and parking. So I think this is a unique enough site that we should pursue those trees in the Woodward right-of-way. Of course, they'll need permits for that. I think they're well aware of that. But I think we should shoot for those trees. I think it would only make this development better. I'll take a second to jump to the DPS comments, which do suggest for both species of trees, the service berries and the redbuds, that in their opinion, they don't think that, one, they have a good chance of surviving in these locations, and 2, that they may cause some sightline issues. Please, I am not an arborist, but I know that service berries and redbuds do tend to bring friends up. They're sometimes not single stalks, so if they are bringing up other stalks, I guess they can get a little wide, and their canopy lines are a little lower. I guess the applicant will explain if they're willing to change species. The DPS suggested the Princeton Century ginkgos like we have around in a lot of places here, which are a single stalk with a bit of a higher canopy, but that's kind of detail work that we can get into a little later. So moving on to parking, let's get to another sheet here. Oops. They were very helpful in providing these floor plans with a bit of a, a legend, or excuse me, a scheme here. Denoting what's office space, what are those spaces that are not habitable that we can preclude from the parking calculations. So ultimately, there's just over 5,600 square feet of commercial area that we can apply towards parking requirements, which require 19. They've got exactly 19. The only issue is sort of a strange one in that the ADA space is a little bit less than 180 square feet if you were just to consider the space itself, not the loading zone. I think, frankly, this is the first time I've run into something like this. I think if we take it at face value, that space also has to be 180 square feet. I'm not sure that we would consider that part of the loading area as a part of the parking space, but I'd like to just talk to you guys about that, see where we can take it. Loading itself is not applicable here. Office uses less than 10,000 square feet do not require loading spaces. Even so, they've got a public alley to the west, and they've got plenty of room in their parking lot to do that loading and unloading. In terms of circulation, vehicle circulation, I think they've thought a lot about here because it is a tricky site. They would, of course, have vehicle access from eastbound on Corton, turning right and then entering their site. But what they've acknowledged is that they would not have left turns from Corton into their site. The engineering department also provided comments to that end. There might be some signage that might need to be installed, no left turns, just to help avoid any of that. Of course, from southbound Woodward, they'll also have access into the site and ingress and egress for vehicles. That's not a problem. That curb cut currently, sort of exists for whatever site was there in the past. It's not being used currently, of course, but it is in that general area, so that's where it historically was. Generally speaking, it's better to be further away from the intersection, so I think they've nailed that part. Pedestrian circulation, they're going to maintain the sidewalk on Corton and Woodward, and I think improve it. They're going to add some crosswalk striping here, which I think is a nice touch across their ingress and egress to Woodward. The only criticism I would have of the plans here is they do have circulation areas behind, but none of the public circulation attaches to that circulation. I think, especially if they end up not needing a public entrance on the Woodward right-of-way, I think at the very least we should ask them to connect that public sidewalk to their private sidewalk so that pedestrians don't have to either walk through drive aisles or walk through landscaping beds to get to those main entrances. I think that's the only thing I would ask. In terms of lighting, we mentioned here that there's several light fixtures proposed on the site in various places, including the parking lot. Most of them look great in terms of their lumen levels. At least two of them are definitely full cutoff. There's some light fixtures on the Woodward side that are not. All the photometrics look good. So at a high level, they're trending good on that. We'll do that full review at final site plan. In terms of departmental reports, I gave you what I had. It's preliminary, so we don't really bully different departments for comments, but we'll keep at them, especially for final. And then finally, in terms of design review, I mentioned this is sort of a final site plan thing. So things like glazing, specific material samples, windows and doors and things will be reviewed at final site plan. But at a high level, let me get to the page for us. Everything is looking good. There are requirements in TZ3 for high-quality building materials. There's requirements in TZ3 for 70% glazing. There's requirements in TZ3 for projections and things like that, all of which, at a high level, with what we've got now, look good. There's only two things that I wanted to bring up to you as sort of a early heads up for you and the applicant, perhaps. There are some, firstly, there are some blank wall provisions that state that you can't have blank walls for more than 20 feet that face a public right-of-way. So this wall, I didn't measure it, frankly. Jeff might know off the top of his head how long that wall is, but I would consider that a blank wall. And if it's over 20 feet, we're going to have to address it. It might be, yeah. Oh, and then on other elevations that don't face a public street, I think it's blank walls for greater than 30 feet. So they may, depending on how long this part is, they may have to address that as well. I think it's very addressable, but just so we know. That also will affect glazing. I think, generally speaking, facades that face a frontage line still have to be 70% glazing, so this one would not meet. Although, as you saw from the floor plans, what's behind there is a stairwell and storage, so we might have to get creative in that regard, but even so, it's ordinance language. So I guess with that, ultimately, we recommend approval of this preliminary site plan review, so long as they address the bulk area setback issues, the 75% the height, and then make sure we get all that detail we need for final site plan review. Other than that, we're happy to recommend approval.
Great. Questions first for staff. Start with Mr. Williams.
So one of the few benefits of being old is that this site, I know personally, was a gas station. So I noticed the engineering report did not, the city's engineering report did not deal with environmental issues. So I would ask the applicant to address environmental issues on this site, because we know there were storage tanks underneath 60-some years ago. Secondly, I think the Jesuits who live at Manresa would be shocked to learn that they live in a cemetery. It's a retreat house, so change the description. I've stayed overnight there, and the last time I checked, I'm not dead.
We're not sure.
Anyway,
Have you checked
but I
that in a
think
while,
the
or no?
environmental issue on this site needs to be addressed, because it was a gas station, and my recollection is over time, there have been various environmental issues associated with this site long before you people were involved. So I'd like you to address that issue.
I think they'll be more than prepared to do that with you.
Mr. Kozik?
Can you go back to the site plan? I'm just trying to understand. So with a corner lot, this has two fronts
And you're talking in regards
to the 75%. So how are you taking your measurement? Are you doing it one for the north and one for the east elevation?
So I'm going to stick with the Woodward side for now.
Okay.
Because I think there's something on this side, but I've got to double check.
Okay.
So generally speaking, when we're talking setbacks, as we've interpreted in the past, there's always one front, two sides, and a rear.
Correct.
Right.
So this is a Woodward address. We consider this the front. So we'll settle that right now,
Okay,
right? So
good.
when it comes to front, 75% and a 25% split. So I'm
Okay.
measuring.
From that
also-
corner,
Yeah, basically this corner, because there is
Okay.
building back here to the end of the building.
okay.
That's
So if
the
that's X, you
96-ish.
take 75% of that, and then that building footprint
This stretch needs to be
must
at
have
least
75% of, within that 5-foot zone of
Yep.
the property line.
Yep.
And what is this, as proposed, where it's got that sort of,
It's about 62% by our math, and I think it's frankly entirely because of this strange little appendage down here.
but where the landscaping is along the sidewalk, what is the proposed distance from the property line to that part of the building? It's got to be close to 5 feet.
It's inside of 5. If you look at page 31 of our packet, they've got
Okay.
dimensions.
Okay, so it's very, very close.
No, I think the point being is that almost the entirety of the building is within 5 feet, but what Mr. Dupuy is saying is that you're not measuring it just where the building is, you're measuring it for the entire frontage of the property, the entire property.
Right, so this whole line here
Right.
is what I'm basing that
So
on.
even if you assume the entire building is within 5 feet, you've got 30 to 40% of the building that's, or the property line that is not.
So the
Right.
building needs to stretch along more of the frontage, is the point.
Yeah,
Right.
to be
Yeah.
simplistic, it need to stretch to maybe
Okay.
here.
And I didn't see in any of these site plans, the Gasow building. I'm just curious where it is positioned relative to that
Sure.
property line. I presume it's the same right-of-way line. I just didn't see it in these.
They've got some good, like, renderings. Yeah. So there'll still be that strange patch in the middle that's owned by consumers, I believe, and then right to the new gas out property. So the There's that little shed back, or whatever it is, utility little house thing back here, and then gas out.
Right, but there's nothing with the dimension. If you zoom in on that gas out building, is that like right up against the property line with the?
No, there's the whole green space is a separate parcel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that
Yeah.
could
Remember
be
that odd consumers?
That lawn area.
yeah. No, I'm talking about the east face of gas out. That building.
No, it's,
Where does that sit relative, excuse me, the east face, the
The
front?
Woodward frontage?
The front.
Oh, it's a
The
zero.
front.
Frontage, ah.
Yeah, I'm curious, where does that building sit
Gotcha.
relative to the right-of-way versus where this proposed building
This
is?
is set front.
Normally, our surveys go beyond the property to some extent so that we can see those sorts of connections, so.
yeah, we did study that when gas out came. This middle chunk here, if you can kind of see, it goes all the way to zero.
Yeah.
But there's some variation when you get closer to the entryway here and back towards their room here.
Okay.
This is only a couple of feet. This is a little bit more.
And bring it forward. All the way.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay.
Keep going. There you go. No. There. Yep. Uh-huh. Blow it up.
So for this building, this chunk here is at zero, and then it steps back
And steps back.
and then continues along.
Okay.
They've got, of course, landscaping in that, so
Right, and
it's
a
not
canopy.
a dead zone necessarily, but
All right.
Any other questions for the applicant at this point?
For Nick, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Scher.
Nick, your report mentioned something about a question at the northeast corner, and I didn't understand that reference.
was it about ownership?
I don't know what it was about. That's
Or
what-
maybe it was, it could be the height at the greenhouse type thing at the northeast corner,
Okay, all right.
This thing.
but I'm not automatically thinking.
We'll probably come up with
Anything else?
And any other
Oh,
questions,
one other
Mr. Scher?
question. Have you calculated if the handicap space, my reading, it's 8 feet rather than 10 feet, is that? Anyway, whatever it is, if the handicap space was made larger to the required 180 square feet, would that cause the parking, there to be inadequate numbers of parking? Is the site that tight?
If you ask me as a planner and a simple thinker, to me, I think the rest of these are 9 by 20, so we're just looking for 1 foot. So to me, if you just shifted half a foot here and half a foot here, I don't think it would be the end of the world, but
Can I ask a simple question? And I
please.
civil engineering me is coming out. That space, I'm on the dimensioned plan. That barrier-free space meets all ADA guidelines for van accessible space. Are you telling me that our ordinance specifically says that barrier-free parking spaces are inadequate in our ordinance? Because I think that's a complete misread.
It could be, and the only thing we haven't talked about before, all it says is to be considered a parking space, it needs to be 180 square feet. If we're saying that, the actual parking space and the loading area count here, then it's a non-issue. I've just never encountered this before.
Well, every single site plan with a barrier-free space has some variation of this condition. Every
Sure.
single site plan that this community sees
Loading.
that has on-site parking has at least one of this condition.
I imagine this
In the
is,
history of Birmingham, since 1992.
I'm asking, I don't know. I'm assuming 8 foot is the minimum.
That's a van accessible, yeah.
I don't think
I don't want to
it's
get into
like
argument. I
Just the other ones we see are 9 by 20. That's the only thing.
think it's a misread. That's fine.
And that's fine with me.
Final
too.
questions before we go to the.
So it seems like it's a quick fix, but isn't the barrier-free parking space mandated to be
Let's get into that
facing
with
to
the
the
applicant.
front entrance? Well, I'm
Fair
asking staff, did they review it? Did engineering review it? Is that a requirement? If so, was it flagged? If it's not flagged, then I'll ask the applicant.
It
Or the
doesn't look like
chairman.
it's been flagged. But we didn't get building department comments, which.
It's in the
might be
wrong
one
spot,
to-
so they're going to move it.
Okay, okay.
Bruce will make them move.
All right,
Any other questions? Mr. Chair, I didn't mean to jump
No,
in.
that's all right. That's fine. That's it.
applicant.
Applicant is here, welcome. Good to see you again.
Excellent questions, thank you.
Please introduce yourself
Jeff-
for us. And
Yeah, Jeff Klatt with Krieger Klatt Architects, 400 East Lincoln in Royal Oak. I'm also here with our project team. We have Brandon Moore, Mason Gorman, Goris, and Dean Thurman of Vestwise, and we have Mike Valent of Newmark here as well, too. So we have a brief presentation, and we can answer any questions you have. Before we jump into that, I just want to thank Mr. Dupuy. I mean, his presentations are always excellent. And then number two, I want to thank him for his help. He's met with us on countless occasions, really kind of held our hands through the process. I want to thank him for all the time he put into this with us. So we really appreciate it. So we do a brief presentation. Like I said, they'll answer any questions you have. Before I jump into the building or the site or any of the questions you had, I'd like to turn it over to Dean Thurman, who can provide a little bit of background about his company and maybe why they selected this site.
Thank you, Jeff. Hey, everybody.
Hi. Name, rank, and
yeah, if you could just, for the record, we could
Dean Thurman. What else do we need?
Social security
just,
number.
just the name of your company, where you're representing.
So, InvestWise Financial. I've been a financial advisor for 35 years. Rented the same place, leased the same place off of Telegraph in Bloomfield Hills. And, really looking forward to having our own building and not paying rent anymore. I want it to be very much a statement building of strength for us and beauty for the city. But as far as the background of our firm, we have about a little over 20 people that work there, 12 wealth managers, and about the same number of support staff, kind of hybrid. Some work from home, some come in. So parking is really at a premium for us. It's family owned. I am 100% owner of the company. My son-in-law and his best friends are my business managers and partners. They're going to be the next generation that comes up through with InvestWise. Like I said, it's been over 30-something years. I plan on continuing to work. I'm 58. I'm going to keep doing it at least another 12, 15 years. And my hope is that that the building stays there forever, and sign of strength for us, beauty for the city of Birmingham. And it's going to be only occupied by the wealth management team at InvestWise Financial, owner occupied, and I love the spot.
Great.
I know it has a lot of issues, but you know what? A lot of things I love have a lot of issues. So, love my family. Is there anything else you think I should add?
No, that was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, very helpful, very helpful.
Jeff, you want to run us through the presentation?
All right, let me see if I don't screw this up. You showed me how to do it, Nick. Let me see.
Did you turn it on?
Oh, turn it on first. Yes, you did tell me that first.
Yep. There we go.
So again, Dean mentioned a bit about his company, background. Nick did an excellent job describing that. He mentioned the habitable space versus gross square footage. Gross are right about just over 9,000 square feet, but the habitable area, which was the gray shading on that floor plan, is about 55. And then we do have the open air roof terrace up on that third level, which is about 1,200 square feet, give or take. From a zoning standpoint, I thought we checked out. I thought we checked the boxes until I read Nick's report. So we have a little bit of work to do to adjust that. But setbacks, everything along those lines, we do believe we comply with. And same thing from a parking standpoint. But we're looking at a 3-story office building. Just some aerial views of the site, of course. The yellow dashed line represents our boundary, and you can see the gas out building to the top of the street. Woodward, of course, on the left. Another aerial view, kind of looking to the southeast there. Again, same thing with our yellow dashed line. So the site, and again, I know Nick walked through this at length, but it's a regular site. It's fairly challenging from a shape standpoint. We have that little nook in the corner there at the bottom right-hand of your screen, which proposes some bit of a challenge for the site. But our obvious goal was to lengthen the building or place the building along the corner of Woodward and Corton, trying to maximize that frontage. And that's what Dean and the team expressed all along. We want to maximize that frontage, gain the exposure, create a beautiful gateway. So that's what we did, the best that we could do. Then, of course, the second goal was to maximize the parking and to shield it behind the building, which, again, this attempts to do. So the parking kind of drove the bus from a building shape standpoint. We wanted to double load that parking to maximize it, so that really kind of squeezed our building in, so it forced it to stretch. The challenge comes in with the drive. So we do have that existing drive along Corton, and I believe it is posted no left turn right now. That's what I saw when I was at the last time. You can't turn into it. So it would be a bit challenging for their team and their customers to gain access from Corton alone. So we are proposing, there's already a curb cut there along Woodward. We'd have to shift it a bit to try to maximize our frontage. But as you can see from the plan, it's difficult to lengthen our building anymore where that drive cuts in. If we try to push it a bit more to the south, we're kind of forced into that little nook right there, which would hurt our parking. So we try to place it in the best spot that we could. We try to maximize the parking. And that's a great point that Mr. Dupree brought up too, and we did neglect that here, but the intent all along was to, just a miscommunication with our civil engineer. We were trying to,
Problem is, the south
there is a
end of
pointer
the
on this thing.
property,
That might be the top button.
Top button.
It's kind of worn.
it's too narrow.
Oh, yeah, right here, we
west.
should have a pedestrian walkway. So even if that's a nice 5-foot walk to gain access to our front door there, it'd be challenging to make the building even any longer to the south. So again, right here, it's left turn in, so we know it's right in, right out. And then this would be generally our primary drive, which would make it easier for guests coming along Woodward to pull into the building. So we have parking here, and parking here. Again, I agree with Mr. Klein when it comes to ADA parking. They usually are 8-foot spaces with the access aisle. We can adjust if need be. If we have to adjust to comply with the ordinance, we don't want a variance for that, so we'll adjust. I think there's room to maneuver that. We'll touch upon the landscape when we get to that point, but it's our intent to screen these items. We want to make sure we screen our dumpster right here, our trash enclosure, I should say, and of course the transformer. All other mechanicals will be located up on the roof, generally in this area right here. The stars represent our access points to the building, so that red one right there, that is our main entry point. And then the other ones represent staff entries and then other egress points along the building. So that's what that symbolizes. And the main reason for the entry point here, and it might make sense to talk about this on our site plan, is really our parking is back here. They have a lot of elderly clients that come to the building, that they're their customers, so it seemed a bit challenging for us to try to force them to come around the building. Gastow, I understand, they have parking in the right-of-way along here. If we had that situation too, it would make more sense to have the entry at that point, but to us, it's somewhat equidistant from these two parking fields. So that's why we placed it there. And then the trash enclosure, we'll make that brick to match the building. I think that'll we'll just match the building. We have a couple tones of brick that we are at least showing right now in our renderings, and we do something along those lines. We don't want to chintz out on the trash enclosure in the back. Landscape plan is pretty straightforward, and Nick did a great job explaining that. We will definitely adjust. We'll make sure that we adjust the tree count in Woodward. We can add 4 trees there, and we're definitely open to working with planning to make sure we get the right species selected. So we have no issue with that. We'll make sure we get the right counts there. Yeah, the building was stepped back just a bit. Number one was to try to help articulate this corner with our tower component. So we stepped the building back a little bit to help do that. And that created a bit of space for a little bit of landscape buffer to soften the building. You know, if the building was downtown Birmingham, I could see the need for no landscape there, which will make sense. But here we are along Woodward Avenue. I think that would help to soften it a bit. And then, of course, we have our screenage around these other areas too. If we're required to provide more, we'll definitely do that. So we're open to working with staff on that. There we go. The floor plan. So we have all 3 on the sheet here. So the first floor would be on the left, the second floor in the middle, and then obviously the 3rd floor on the right-hand side. Excuse me. God bless you.
Thank you.
So as was mentioned, the gray shaded areas represent the habitable space in the building. Everything white is elevator, restrooms, stairwells in the back. We do have a bit of a storage area right here. That's what leads to some of the challenge with the window placement at the back of the building. But maybe we do look at transom windows or something up high in the restroom to let light in to help break up that facade. So we can touch upon that with the exterior. We can also look at glazing here too. I think that would be a nice touch to have more glass along Corton. So we can definitely look at that as well too. But the main idea here was to have a beautiful entry point for their guests to come into the building. So they'd walk in the door right here. And this would be a 2-story lobby component with a nice architectural staircase leading up. There'd be a reception counter right here. So generally speaking, when the guest comes into the building, they'd be directed either to the conference room right here. So again, this would be a beautiful view along Woodward. And then they might have access to the break room back here. But the rest of this is staff area. We have offices, some shared, conference room space. And then, of course, our circulation to get to our stairwell back here. Second level is pretty straightforward. This is primarily for their team. This is open to the stairwell below, which would be a nice impact and a nice statement. And then it's primarily all office space right here. And then the third floor, or the partial third floor, is really along that'd be the western side of the building. We did that for a few reasons. Number one, we wanted to get some bit of a outdoor patio space, but also it helped to reduce the bulk along Woodward too. We were trying to gain the height and trying to create that height with our tower, but we wanted to step the massing back a little bit. So I know there's some concern about that 46 feet to the peak, but that's a very small percentage of that overall facade. So again, the goal was try to step the massing back a bit, create a beautiful open-air terrace right here. That's primarily for their staff. And we have some reference to a Zen garden, and that's really what Dean and the team are trying to do. It's just a beautiful place to get away, for the team to take a break, to get away. It's the size of a great room in a typical home, roughly 20 by 20, place for conversation or just to get a break from the day-to-day. They mentioned they bring their pets to work, so this could be a fun place for the animals to roam when they need a break. Or maybe those rare occasions when they have the Woodward Dream Cruise, they might have a small event for their guests. But generally speaking, day-to-day is for their team. And there's just some small support space here. We have to maintain, from an egress standpoint, for the building code, we need two means of egress. So although we would have loved to have reduced this area, we need to be able to get out from this roof deck to a staircase, and then also our secondary staircase. So we kind of need that support space right here, which helped to drive up our parking count a bit too. And then all mechanical will be screened back here. So on the exterior, you'll notice that these wall lines kind of run through to help keep continuity of the building facade as we move across. The exterior, and I think as Dean mentioned when he was up here speaking, that they were trying to create a legacy building, a building that would stand the test of time, hopefully, and could be handed down to the future leadership of his team. So that was our goal from the onset, create a timeless building, a beautiful building. So we looked at really four buckets here, four categories. Number one, gateway and context. We know the importance of this corner. It's kind of serves as that gateway from the north into Birmingham. And not that this sets the tone, but it will have to set the tone. We know there's a ton of gorgeous, beautiful architecture along Woodward leading into Birmingham, and we want to also represent that and be mindful of it. Again, we have you'll see in the other renderings, which were shown, this corner tower element right here, which helps to helps to hallmark that corner. The InvestWise vision, like the values of their company, we're suggesting a lot of brick on here, brick, which is timeless, which kind of suggests a permanence and trust and longevity that they're building, that their customers respect and demand. Modern detailing, forward-thinking innovation, and then careful craftsmanship. You'll see we have some brick banding, muttons within the windows themselves. We're trying to pay attention to the small details too with the building. Materials, again, I just mentioned that. Timeless material palette, very simple, very curated, brick, metal, glazing, very simple. And then some thoughtful patterning along the way. And then the last one is that human experience, which is that Zen area at the top of the building. So, that being said, so this was some inspiration when we first met with their team. Somewhat of a modern industrial vibe, but simple, clean, timeless, nice articulation. There's that Zen room and conservatory, just a nice, beautiful place, to get away from the day-to-day. And there's our front facade from the corner of Woodward and Corton. So we do have that tower element right here. Again, clad in brick. We do have a significant amount of glazing. Very, very simple forms. Nice articulation of glass, so nice rhythm along the front facade here. Some metal accent banding in these areas. Again, just to help articulate the facade. And then we do have our piece up here. So we can talk about how to reduce the height of that if we need to. Maybe it's our floor-to-floor heights at the other levels of the building. But we'll definitely want to work to make sure that complies. And then I mentioned that third floor. You can see how that massing steps back. So really the brick areas become kind of the star of the show, then this steps back a bit and letting the tower be the main focal point. So again, I already mentioned the materials. We have, right now we're proposing two colors of brick, maybe grays, two different tones of gray. we're open to discuss that. You know, we have a large areas of glazing, but more of that industrial pattern, which you saw in some of the inspiration images. Our conservatory room up top, we are suggesting a bit of a canopy structure here. Again, I think it'll add visual interest along the sidewalk area, helps to create shadow, helps to create some depth along that facade. And plus, it also can function as solar control at that first floor. But again, just adds that level of detail along the building. We'll look at these lights here. You know, we want to make sure they do comply with the photometric study. But again, just something to add some detail and maybe some subtle uplighting at night on the building. And same thing with this area. It's not meant to be a beacon. You know, it's not the bat symbol at night. It's meant to just, it's really meant for more for daytime use. So we'll be mindful of the neighbors and what that intends to be. Another view from, this would be heading north along Woodward. You see the corner of the building. The entry's tucked around the bed. I do have an image of the rendering of the entry point. View along the sidewalk, you can see that canopy structure right there and some of those light fixtures. And this would be a view of the southern side of the building. So this would be that conference room in our floor plan right here. This is that primary entry point. This would be that two-story lobby kind of all throughout here. That glass wraps the corner. And this would be the back side of the building. So this is where we have those restrooms. We have the elevator core right here. We have the two restrooms right here. So maybe there's a creative way we can look at brick patterning. Maybe there's a way to add some higher windows in the restrooms to bring daylight in. So I think we can get creative with that to add some visual interest at the back side of the building too. And this was that aerial view that was shown before, kind of putting our building in context with the gas out building too. And that is it. So
Great.
you can answer any questions you have. We thank you for your time and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was well done. Thank you.
Environmental,
Let's start with any questions. We'll just come around. We'll start with Mr. Wood.
environmental issues with the site.
Environmental. So I'm going to pass the baton to Mike Gallant here. He has been leading the charge with our environmental.
Yep. So Mike Vlant, Newmark. I have been spearheading some of this dirty work here.
Literally.
No pun intended. But from my understanding, and I'm not an environmental specialist, but we've engaged Applied Environmental out of Ann Arbor. They have completed a phase one.
Okay.
The tanks were removed. So there's remediation completed in the early 2000s. There was a closure report filed with the state. Based on what Jason has told us and looked at, the Luss report showed that the tanks were actually not where the building is. But there is a restrictive covenant on the property, which does state that in the event you were to build a commercial building, you do have to install a mitigation, or what was it, vapor barrier, thank you. And so that is part of the plan as well. So we're well aware of the environmental issues. We've taken it into account, and we've got a plan in motion.
I'd simply say that you need to let the engineering department know of that, okay, because it's not in their report. Okay.
I'm going to jump to Mr. Scher because I know he's got questions on the very same issue, if you don't
And
mind.
I think
Sure, I'll wait.
what I'd like to, so Newmark, that's the brokerage firm?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not going to put you on the spot by asking you any technical questions, but I think I want to be sure that you give the restrictive covenant to the city so the engineering department can look at it, make sure that they and the building department, talk to one another about, to confirm that these plans are consistent with what at the time it was the DEQ, now it's Eagle,
Right.
required. So that's the primary thing, I think, is to,
Yeah.
rather than drag you through explaining to us, what's there that needs to be protected by a vapor barrier, because something's there, otherwise they wouldn't have
Absolutely.
asked for that.
Well, and I'm going to jump in real quickly a step further, and again, not putting you on the spot tonight, but if you've done a phase one, I don't know if you've done a phase two, do you have a due care plan? Is that where this vapor barrier is
Yeah,
coming
so
from?
that's where it's.
All of that needs to be, in my opinion, along with the covenant to the city engineer. I mean, you're going to need to prove to them that you have any state permits required from Eagle for that. We just want to make sure that it's all, whether it's Class 2 landfill or whatever you're doing, we want it in the engineering department, in the city's hands.
Right.
Before
Yes, of
permit.
course. I think we have provided the
Okay.
covenant deed. We have a plan in place. I believe we're going to be doing phase 2 here shortly in order to be able to apply for a grant.
I just want it on the
If
record, I
needed,
think you
yeah.
got three of us
We're-
here, that we want all this information to the city
Yeah, of
at
course.
the appropriate time.
Yep, of course.
You good with that?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go to Mr. Boyle.
Jeff, could you put the rendering you had up where you spoke for quite a long time? It was at street level. Okay, no, go back. No, go back to the one you were using.
Oh, this one, the
Nope,
aerial?
Now,
Oh,
come
it's
down.
probably right, this one,
There.
maybe? Okay.
okay. I love your building. I want to see this built. But you're looking at, and in the time that I am speaking, an 18-wheeler, 25 SUVs, 3 Corvettes, and 2 people, in the time that you and I have spoken. This is a very dangerous junction. They speed through here at 60 miles an hour. We've tried to get it slowed down, but as our chairman will tell you, we have failed to do that. When I'm looking at it from here, did you and your client think about possibly having some form of barrier between the 4 lanes and your property? I'm not talking about a wall. I'm talking about some form of softening that space, hardening, that space. You may disagree with me, but it's extremely busy.
Would that be like almost like, not a retaining wall, but a garden wall or something along those lines, maybe to help
Yep.
as a barricade or
Possibly,
something?
possibly, particularly at that corner and at the next corner where you're actually encouraging down Woodward. You're encouraging pedestrians to come into your door around the back. Now the door might change. I get that. In fact, it might make it even more important if this board forces you to put a front door on Woodward.
Yeah.
But that's my only. I've got another issue, but that to me is something that we need to address. I don't know whether my colleagues agree with me, but I think it's an issue.
Would that be?
I respectfully disagree.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Respectfully. I understand what you're saying, but it's, first of all, it's state right-of-way.
True.
So putting any sort of foundations within that right-of-way is going to be nearly impossible permitting-wise. But secondly, I think that you'd be introducing a potential crash risk. It would have to be rated somehow, and I don't share your opinion. That's all.
Okay.
I appreciate you and your opinion, but I don't share it.
Okay. Second issue, completely different. Around the back, there's an alley, and your car parks will be front in to the alley. Correct?
I'm going
That's a
to jump
question.
right to the site plan right here.
Yeah. With no articulation, with no fence, with no green stuff, nothing. It just sits there, right?
Explain the interaction, Jeff. That was my
Yeah,
question.
there-
I mean, can you pull in from the alley? Can you pull out into the alley?
Can people bump into
What
it?
do you, what's
Yeah,
going
those are all
on?
great questions. Right now, we are showing a curb right here, I believe, because there is park, Gasow does park, they own the property behind here. So they do park their cars along this alley right in this area. Yeah, I
No,
think
it's
I thought Gasow owns all that. This
There's
is
an alley
right
back there.
here. So the alley comes through here, but they do park this area right here. So we are proposing a curb right now. We're just a little limited. If we had, it's challenging from this point to this point. We need double parking, we need a bit of a walkway here to get our customers to the building, and then plus our depth gets really tight, even from a usability standpoint in an office. So we're proposing a curb because we really don't want them parking in this site, and vice versa. We feel we have enough vehicles to park, or enough parking here to support their business and their customers. So right now, we're have a curb. That's what we're proposing, in a long-winded way.
I think when Gasow did.
I'm not trying to be mean. We need you at the mic because we have people watching on TV and we need you recorded, so please.
Sorry, Mike here. When Gasow did the alleyway, they put in a curb. So there is an existing curb right now that sits along the property line where our cars would be sitting. And it's brand new. When Gasow did that.
So you're going to have a curb and a curb, is what you're telling me.
I don't know that interaction yet. We'd have to work, Stonefield's our civil engineer. We'd have to work with them on a creative way to do that. But we're trying to provide at least some bit of buffer between the alley and the cars will park on this lot.
And it's public property, not gas house property. So if the curb's there and it needs to, we wouldn't want to double stack a curb. We would make it one curb.
Yeah.
I might be speaking up for the engineering department here. Maybe that's out of bounds, but
Because right now it abuts, there's lawn. If we go back, there's, well, that aerial view that I had up on the screen too. Oops, I went the wrong way.
Yeah, hold that.
Yeah, so right there, this is that condition. So wouldn't it be, the curb would not be formed right, I
like curb
guess,
and
if
gutter,
we had
doesn't it?
parking on the backside? Yeah, there is curb and gutter right there.
Okay.
But on the far side of the alley, on the other side of the parking is a what?
here?
Well, just move it slightly. It's colored white, it's a white line at the alley.
This here?
There, what's that?
That's that 6-foot screen wall that gas house was required to build.
Okay.
I think that's a masonry wall. 'Cause
Exactly.
This does encroach upon our property a bit too, this current drive. They did build this right across that corner.
All I'm saying is that spent a long time looking at alleys in Detroit, and the alleys that worked were the ones that had clear definition in some form of building or wall or vegetation. The ones that were a disaster were the ones that just bled into the vacant lots
That's true.
Yeah, I know.
or into parking lots. They're everywhere. You've all seen them.
Oh, for sure. And architecturally, our clients have installed them, but the challenge I always see with these walls, especially in the winter, is when they snow plow or the cars bump into them and then they're in disarray half the time.
I know.
So that's the only challenge with those walls, is they often get banged up.
I might offer a suggestion. I don't think I want a wall, but I share your
I
concern
don't want a wall. I
completely.
don't want a wall.
I don't know what the dimensions are. It kind of looks like you've got about 6 or 8 inches between what would be the back of your curb and the back of the existing curb. I don't know if there's anything that you could creatively do in that space. I don't want to just to say install bollards or anything, but before I see it at final, I'd like to see that you've given that consideration and thought, because I think I share Mr. Boyle's concern that I don't want vehicles pulling in and out of your parking lot via the parking spaces to and from the alley.
Makes sense. So no cross flow
Right.
between.
We want a separation, something,
Clarity.
but not,
More than a curb.
well, I don't know. I just design it.
Ideas, options.
I'll know it when I see it. It's a phrase.
Well, no, we appreciate the feedback on that. So we'll get creative and come up with a
Thank you.
solution that makes sense.
That's nice.
That's an excellent point, though. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
At this point, we don't know the grade.
Right, exactly. We have no idea.
And then, I don't know if our ordinance allows bumpers to overhang if you're on a perimeter,
That's a really good point.
in lieu of curb, parking blocks or something, that might get you another couple feet or something, so there's something
Well, they're
substantial.
20-foot depth, so,
Pardon?
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Other,
Barrier free parking space. So can you just look at that in terms of its location? And again, I'm an architect, I don't know parking lots, but I think it's required, if you have one, to be as close as possible
practical
to the,
yes.
right. So I think you're trying to double dip with using that transference area, whatever they call that, as sort of your service, but it's not like this building's going to get a lot of service anyways at 10,000 square feet. So.
That's a great point. So maybe suggesting moving that closer to our main entry point.
Right.
where it's got to be.
Right.
That
It
makes
just
sense.
shifted to the south, abutting that
Yeah.
peninsula, and give it another foot, so you don't have to do the silly trees in the parking lot. And I like your idea of a plaza at that corner to help engage the public sidewalk, and, it's a little bit more of an urban response than,
That's a great
a little triangular piece of sod.
I agree, 100%.
I like your landscaping, I think, and we take these ordinance things and try to embed them throughout the city of Birmingham. This is a very unique site, so I don't think anybody's going to be shoe shopping here. It would give a little bit of a buffer to people working in those offices.
You got comments in the right.
Mr. Chair.
So can you put up the, I think it was maybe the first visual you showed with the kind of the overview that shows the site and the sidewalk and that little green space along Quarton?
Was it?
Yeah, good, that's
This one?
perfect.
This
That's
work?
it. So if I'm understanding the various things submitted, your property ends at the southern side of that sidewalk that crosses Woodward, right there. Is that correct?
Generally, this was a dashed line. It's just a representation.
Well,
Certainly it'd be more-
I just, in terms of order of magnitude, you guys don't own the green space to the north of the sidewalk?
No, it's
Okay.
right away.
So do you know who owns that? Is that right-of-way? Is that something else?
I believe this is MDOT, I would believe along this right away here. This, I'm not sure. Is that-
Okay, I can't, yeah,
It's
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 right here.
public right away.
it is public
Court
right
Road,
away.
which I
Yes.
would
Okay, all
assume
right.
would be county, but I don't.
I think it's the county.
All right.
I think it's an old guy that sits in a plastic box, actually.
Yeah, it's his. It's Waters' rights, baby.
How much money have you given him?
Sorry. Couldn't resist.
That's great. I appreciate that. That's helpful. I was just trying to get the context of what might happen with that.
So the entrance from the south is clipped off, the drive is clipped off a portion of your property?
This might be a better shot. Right here it does. It's a slight clip at this corner. Again, this dash line is just a representation, just to paint a visual, but yes,
Okay.
it does.
Saved a tree.
Probably to save
Any
it.
other questions?
No, that's,
Mr. Craig? Anything?
Yeah, I think Nick mentioned that it was a challenge to get, to acquire lots 709 and 710, and I was wondering if there's a story behind that. I'm curious.
I might have to pass this over to Mike again, too. I give him the tough ones.
You did the work, might as well show off a little bit, Mike.
This is a family show, too, by
Yeah,
the way.
family
so-
show. So the piece that, if you drive by it, is not fenced off. So the road commission owned that, Oakland County Road Commission owned that site, and then they abandoned it back in 1997. The current owner, whose father ran the real estate, never actually had it titled correctly. The father passed away several years ago. The sons have taken over. The oldest son, who's in charge now, went and had it titled correctly. So right now, it is titled to this ownership group and part of it.
Great.
Yes.
Good.
All right, I'll just have my last 2 cents here. I generally agree with what we said. I'm thrilled to see this site looking like it's going to move forward. I'm very happy with the design and with the fact that you're occupying your own building, and I'm in love with all of that. I do think that our ordinance asks for front doors on streets for a reason. It's to enhance the pedestrian feel of the area, and I know we just talked a lot about how it's not a very pedestrian-friendly area, but to stimulate activity, it's an ordinance requirement. I don't know that we have any ability to waive that. If you're going for variances, the Board of Zoning Appeals is the body that determines whether there's a practical difficulty that rises to the level of you getting a variance. They often ask us for our opinion from a pure land planning perspective, not from a hardship perspective or practical difficulty, but from a planning perspective. As I look at this, I see a couple of variances, one being the 75% of the frontage. I don't know how you'd even do it. I don't even know how you'd even do it. But beyond that, I would say that I personally have no concerns from a land planning matter were you to prove that you have a practical difficulty. So the Board of Zoning Appeals would know that I'd be very happy with the design we have here with appropriate landscape and screening. Secondly, with regard to the height, you got to bring it down. I mean, the height is the height, just make it comply. And then thirdly, with regard to the entrance, I do have an issue. I don't think it meets the spirit or the intent of the ordinance, and I do think you need to find a way to have even a small entrance along Woodward that ties into your lobby to help stimulate that activity. That's just my opinion. I do like Mr. Kozak's point about more of an urban condition, a little plaza at that southern end to kind of tie it all together. I think that makes a lot more sense than the little bit of landscape you have there. We talked a bit about landscape islands and whether you felt we needed more. I do not. I think the whole point of that ordinance is to break up large expanses, and you've tried to do that as best you can. They're small grouping. I think it's perfectly fine with me, so I wouldn't ask you to change that at all. What I would say, we talked about the barrier-free space. I would say the Michigan Department of Transportation is in charge of Woodward Avenue, so they don't really care what I think. They never have. However, the driveway approach that you're showing with the ramps down and the crosswalk painted is really an old school suburban way of doing things. And if you look at every other drive approach that's been installed on Woodward Avenue recently, what you're going to notice is that the sidewalk goes through without a change in elevation, unabated, and that everything warps down from it to the street. The sidewalk prevails, not the driveway. So you need to work that out with MDOT, and again, they're not going to listen to me, but if you look at every other street or drive approach around here, put the pedestrian first in your thinking. Other than that, I'm quite happy with this and very hopeful that you can move forward and get this done.
Thank you.
Last comments?
There's a, I don't know what it's called, I'm going to call it the Art Van Foundation Building at, is that
Oak and
River Salt? It has a similar, it has a side entry, but it has a canopy such that you can, and they have a parking lot much like you're proposing, so maybe take some
See.
It's next to
clues
Tim
where
Hortons.
there's some articulation there that still meets, you know, I get your clients
There
are
it
going
is.
to park and come from the south, so
Okay.
you
Any
guys are
final-
good architects, so you'll figure something out, so.
Any final points before we go to the public?
Yes,
Mr. Boyle.
could you just explain to me, I'm not an architect at all, why you've got that little cutout at the northern part? Exactly. Why don't you just finish the building all the way around? Take it round. Could you explain?
Yeah, from a massing standpoint, we were trying to keep this corners 90 degrees. That's really what it was, trying to keep it square. We looked at flaring that out. It didn't have the same visual appeal, in my opinion. We did explore that. We explored holding that corner. We felt the building looked, especially with the glass shape at the top, when you start to pull that out and it gets a bit more obtuse from an angle standpoint, it looked, for lack of a better term, it looked funky. It did. So we were trying to keep the building kind of square, clean, which that was the intent. And then to provide a little bit of landscape bed. It didn't show up in our report, but we were maybe looking at a possible ground sign in that area too, something like that. Maybe we do, increase the landscape in that area. But that was the main reason. That was a pretty strong feature from the ownership team, was to have that Zen space, and I think it could be a pretty element. But flaring it out it just didn't look right, in my opinion. So that's why we did that. We explored it. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Because naturally, from a plan standpoint, we wanted to. I agree.
I'd like to thank you for using the word obtuse and funky in the same sentence. All right. With that, we're going to open it to the public. Would anyone from the public care to comment on the proposal before us today? Preliminary site plan review. If you are at home, use the raise your hand function in Zoom. I see no hands going up. I see no one standing up here. Going once, we'll bring it back to the board. Board, any further discussion on this? We've done quite a bit of talking here tonight already.
No, I think that,
Mr. Sheriff.
I mean, I concur that it's fabulous to see this site getting developed. It was one of the few sites in the city that nobody ever thought anything would happen. So that's great. Plans are good. A couple tweaks and you should be in business.
Is there a general sentiment of the board related to the feeling on the 75% frontage? Is it a concern? Do you reflect my opinions?
And clearly, it's an unusual site, so when you seek that variance, that certainly helps you.
Okay, so no issues there. Good, just for clarity. Any other comments?
They still have to get a variance.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. All right,
Mr.
so
Boyle?
Is that blank walls that was mentioned by Nick for next time?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the ordinance. They're going to need to.
Great.
No, but it's a final site plan review item, right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
And I think they probably would rather address it than get a variance for it. I don't want to speak for them, but it sounded
I mean,
to
they've
me
got a final site plan they can
in there,
prepare.
yeah.
They prefer.
So if we end up there anyways, okay, we'll deal with it then.
Motion language covers it.
All right, any other comments? Mr. Williams?
I'll make the motion. I'm going to make a motion to approve the preliminary site plan for 36799 Woodward Avenue with the following conditions. One, modify the site plan so that at least 75% of the street frontage consists of building facade located within 0 to 5 feet of the front lot line, or obtain a variance of 39.125 feet from the Board of Zoning Appeals. 2, lower the overall building height to no more than 42 feet in accordance with the ordinance requirements. 3, modify the site plan to include a main entrance on at least one street front, or obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. 4, comply with all recommendations contained in the report of the Planning Department to the full extent and level of detail contained in the Planning Department report. And 5, comply with the requests of all city departments.
Motion by Mr. Williams. Do we have a second?
Second.
Can I suggest,
We have a second by Mr. Kozak. Discussion of the motion, Mr. Sherry.
so my comment is that I think we want to add something to the effect that there be what's the word isn't articulation, but some kind of separation along the western parking lot to prevent parking from the alley into the site. I think that's part of the site plan.
Okay, that could be number 6.
Wording?
I'll accept the amendment.
Why don't you articulate it into something that you feel, so we can get it down?
Well, I think that, that there be a redesign of the parking areas at the west side of the building such that entrance to and from that parking area to and from the alley be restricted.
Mr. Kozak?
I will.
I think that's,
That would be number 6.
okay. That's good. That's good.
Mr. Dupuy?
Just a friendly amendment, because and forgive me, I mentioned we got the math wrong. In the first condition relating to the 75%, we state here 39.125 feet. That's a mistake. I'm just curious if you'd be willing to strike the number, the specific number. We don't need that in this
All
particular
right,
language.
so the language of 1 would be, or obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yes, if you're willing.
Yeah, I'm willing to change that. Delete that portion of number 1.
Mr. Kozak?
I agree.
Okay. Any other conversations about the motion at the board? To the public, is there anyone in the public that would care to comment on the motion itself to approve the preliminary site plan? Seeing none, we will bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
I wanted to just make a comment. He was blocking me.
Well, I'm sorry, we're taking it to the public, brought it back, we are in the motion.
Oh, I'll make a comment afterwards.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there anything-
You're right, Nick did a great job.
Question about the height. It's more about the height.
Is it possible to talk about the height for a minute? Is it too late?
We could probably talk offline.
Why don't you, I think you need to talk with staff offline. I mean, the ordinance requires the height. I mean, this board has no ability to waive that.
Understand.
So if you want to press for a variance, you have the right to do that. I think you've heard from the board that the height's the height. So work with Mr. Dupuy and see where you want to go with that.
Yeah, we'll have those conversations. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that I think this is one of the most important sites in Birmingham, and it won't be the biggest building, but it's going to be a landmark building
be a capital.
inherently.
Yeah.
I mean, look what Gastow already did.
Right.
You know, and that's not even at the corner, so I like the form. I hope you find a way to sell the tower element, you know, are there cupola type of exceptions and other sorts of things? You know, I think you did a great job with this, so. And wonderful graphics. It's so nice to see a presentation where you can read stuff and understand it.
It's very well done.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for your guidance. We appreciate the comments today. Thank you.
All right. Let's move forward. Our next item is an update on the zoning ordinance amendment RFP, revision RFP, whatever we're calling it.
Copies?
Mr. Dupuy, that was posted, I believe?
Yeah, I heard someone muttering copies. I can get you one when you're leaving if you want a copy of the final version. It was posted on time, on the 2nd, as promised.
It's electronic. Seriously, could we get an electronic copy?
Sure.
Because
They said it.
Scott was saying we can't get it.
Yeah, maybe just mail, well, we can't get it ourselves.
No,
We're not.
can't get it on the state site.
No, you can't pull it from Mitten,
Right.
but.
Right.
Yeah, it's public record, anybody.
Yeah,
can
fee.
do
Why don't you just send it to the board so
Send it
we
to
have
the
it in
board.
case they want it?
it. Not a problem at all.
Perfect.
Not a problem at all.
End of
All right.
conversation.
As I mentioned at the previous meeting, I just wanted to update you that it was posted successfully. I made all the tweaks that you requested, and they were well received here from all of our staff who looked at it again. So I think we did a really nice, thorough job on it. I checked before we met, and 40 firms had pulled the document so far.
Wow.
Now, some of them seem to have like auto-pulled it, so some firms that I can't imagine would actually want this project. But in looking on and I mean because they're not planning firms, I think
know
they
what
just
you-
have some
yeah,
sort of.
we know what you mean.
Oh, we know exactly what you mean.
I'm not sure I know what you mean. Go ahead.
But, and I'm sure you know what I mean when I would suggest to you that the heavy hitters have pulled it, the ones you'd expect have pulled it. So it seems to me like we're getting a lot of good interest. I haven't got any questions, but it's only been 8 days. So I'm expecting things on the 30th as planned. Now, the thing with this, and it
Yeah.
blends in a little bit to our future
Explain
meetings.
what you think.
Well, we don't meet again until October 29th.
Right.
So that would give us a month in between receipt and our next meeting. I'm looking for some guidance from you all on how you'd like to really handle that. We haven't put together, to be open, like a separate committee that's going to evaluate.
Right.
I expect we'll do that over the course of this month, decide who is going to be evaluating this. But my big question is, do we want to wait till October 29th to be reviewing this as a body, or are you
The
thinking?
29th or the
Why
22nd?
don't we think about a special
Second.
meeting?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
22nd.
I agree.
Thank
Why
you.
don't we think about a special meeting?
So if you want to think about a special meeting, I
We don't
can
have to
certainly
hold it
explore
here. I mean, you can go over on Eaton.
I think the chair and I will discuss that. The only problem is that these holidays in October kill meeting schedules. So it would be, honestly, Thursdays or Fridays.
It's all
And I don't know, I
right.
have to speak for myself, I don't really want to have a meeting on Friday, but,
Thursday's fine.
so it would have to be a Thursday at this point.
Yep. Why don't we take this offline and we'll discuss and figure out how we want to play it?
I think that sounds good.
Because they're going to be submitted the 30th, correct?
Yeah.
And so that would be 3 weeks after submittal before we get together.
Maybe that's
long.
good, I'm not sure. I
Too
mean,
long.
At the very least, we need to discuss how we're going to disseminate the information to the board so they can review it. So when we come back together on the 22nd, we're not just opening
Yeah, ice
the
cold.
Christmas package and
Yeah.
wondering what we got.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So the chair and I will work on timing on that. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
And I might suggest talking to Mr. Scher over there.
You know, we've sort of been through this recently, and maybe there were some lessons learned. For example, make sure the city attorney blesses everything before we go through all the effort and pick somebody and find out we can't
Right.
commit to working with them. If the city commission is going to be involved, let's try to ask them how they want to be involved now, so we do this efficiently and our thoughts and ideas are heard and respected.
Right.
And so I think you could be of help.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and I'd love to do that. I will say that my understanding, and I'm just going to lay it out there for everybody, my understanding is this body is going to review the RFP, and we're going to provide a recommendation to the city commission. And they're going to either take it or not. So unless somebody in the city commission or the city manager tells me differently, Mr. Dupuy tells me different, that's what I'm assuming we're doing. It's on the record.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, because we haven't discussed it, yeah, I suppose so. But,
If there's a different process, then please, city manager, tell me what you'd like to
Okay.
do. That's fantastic.
well, I will make sure I get that figured out sooner than
Yeah.
later.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, project updates.
Nothing.
List just kind of seems to sit there.
Yeah.
Lincoln Yard and their 3-year-old temporary.
Yeah. Everyone's temporary.
I have a meeting to check into
Well,
that,
hope their
but
food isn't that old.
All right. Admin approvals. I don't know if there are any questions.
No.
can I back up Chair Klein a little bit? It's not typically in here. There's a joint meeting scheduled on September 29th. September. 29th. It is unusual for us to be having it in September, so it snuck up on us a little bit because there is no time in October. So they scheduled it because our ordinance says shall meet twice a year. So it's on the calendar because we shall meet twice a year with the city commission. I have no idea what to bring them. It's too early for the RFP. We wouldn't have gotten responses then. I've been told that meeting is happening. I am working right now to try to get it rescheduled so that we can have it on a date where we can do some work towards something instead of just having a, gosh, if I may say so, kind of a token joint meeting here. So I have to keep you updated. This is out of the ordinary now because I usually like to prepare it with you all. But at this point, if it's on the 29th, we're all going to be going in pretty cold. So I would get you what I can when I can, but I wanted to make sure you knew as of right now, it's still on. I imagine it would be at DPS again.
Monday the 29th.
Has the
Yes.
city commission given you any indication what they want to talk to us about? Okay. Well,
So that's the problem. It's earlier this year and at a really awkward time in the year.
Okay.
So I'm working on that. I'll be as communicative as I can, but honestly, plan to be here on the 29th if you can, for now.
time for another dental hygienist.
Draft agenda for October 22nd, which is our next meeting.
Yeah.
Looks like the Cole Street project is hopefully going to come back.
Yeah.
Yep, we hope. Yep.
Zoning ordinance, which will definitely, almost certainly be on there.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
All right.
Yep.
Are you expecting any application from 479 South Old Woodward?
If I may be open, it's been crickets.
Okay.
I haven't heard a thing. And I don't know why, but
I know why.
It is what it is.
The building, would steel up.
Okay. Any other business before the board?
No.
Meeting adjourned.